Hey everyone, this week I'm taking a short break from my air fryer series because AMZ Chef have asked me to give an honest review of their juicer. Juicing season is coming up and they kindly sent me their model SJ036 to test. So thank you to AMZ Chef for sending this over. Let's see what it can do. Inside the box you'll find the main base which delivers 250 watts of power, the juicing bowl and feeding cup, 2 containers, a food pusher and a cleaning brush. Taking a look at the feeding cup, the 1.8 litre capacity is great for processing large batches, and the 13mm opening on the lid allows for smaller whole fruits and vegetables to fit through. There is a built-in triple filter with mesh sizes of 2mm, 0.8mm and 0.5mm. That's meant to improve juice yield and reduce pulp, so we'll see how well it performs. The multi-stage auger works by subcutting, crushing and squeezing the ingredients to extract maximum juice while retaining all nutrients. The juicing bowl has 2 outlets, one for juice and one for pulp. There is a silicone plug which should be closed during processing to prevent any pulp seeping into the juice and vice versa. The base has 4 rubber feet to prevent it from sliding over the counter while it's being used. Assembly of this juicer is pretty straightforward. First check that the silicone plug is closed, then attach it to the base. Next insert the auger, making sure to align the center with the shaft on the base and twist it in to make sure it's nice and secure. Finally, attach the feeding cup by sliding it over the auger. Align the triangle shown on the cup to the unlock position shown on the juicing bowl. You also need to make sure the lid on the feeding cup is open. So when you twist it clockwise towards the lock position, it should lock in. If the lid is closed, it will prevent you from twisting it, as you can see here. So just remember to open the lid to rotate it to the lock position. Disassembly is just as easy. First open the lid on the feeding cup and twist it counterclockwise before pulling it upwards and off. Then remove the juicing bowl from the base and pull out the auger. For my first test, I started with soft fruit and used a couple of blood oranges, peeled but leaving them whole. The juicer had no issues with this and it managed to process it all without leaving much behind. Out of 2 medium-sized oranges, the machine was able to yield just over 100 ml of juice. Unfortunately, the transparent print on the containers are a little hard to see, but when I pour this out into a glass, you can see that it is smooth and clean and a really nice bright color with only a very tiny amount of pulp. These are super juicy, so I wasn't surprised the pulp came out slightly wet. When checking the feeding cup and filter area, you can see the usual amount of pulp that would be expected, but I was glad to see that there was no pulp trapped under the auger. The juicing bowl did have some pulp in it, but again, that was expected due to the high juice content and soft texture of oranges. By the way, I've been testing a few different juicers lately, so I'm turning this into a mini juicing series. If you're comparing models, I'll leave links to the others in the descriptions and the ones that you should avoid. And make sure to subscribe because I've got more juicer reviews coming up soon. I wanted to see if it could handle a whole apple. Did cut through it, but there were a lot of apple chunks left behind. I tried to use the food scraper to push the apples towards the center of the auger, but it didn't seem to move anymore. When opening up the juicer, you can see that there is quite a lot of apple stuck in the container, but the yogurt was relatively clean underneath and the juicing bowl didn't look as bad. That's likely because most of the apple got stuck in the feeding cup. You can see how a lot of the apple skin got trapped around the filter area, which is likely what prevented the apple from going through fully. From one whole apple, I was able to yield about 50 ml of juice, and you can see that it came out with quite a bit of foam. When pouring this out slowly into a glass, I was able to hold back some of the foam. Unfortunately, the apple did have quite a thick texture to it, and I wondered if it was because the filter got blocked by the apple skin. Although it wasn't bad, but you could definitely feel the texture. The pulp was wetter than I'd like, and again, this was likely due to the blocked filtration. For this model, I'd recommend peeling your apples if the skin is thick, especially red ones, and cutting them into smaller chunks might also help. Next, I tried a mix of fruits and veg. I had 3 small mandarin oranges, about a cup of purple grapes, 2 carrots, and this time I chopped up my apple into quarters to test if smaller pieces would help. I dumped everything into the chute, mixing them up, hoping that the soft and hard fruits mixed together would process better. The juicer started off well and everything went through smoothly, so I continued to feed the ingredients through the hole. The juicing bowl started to fill quickly, and since there was no maximum indication on the juicing bowl, I let it go to the top, which probably was not a great idea because the juice began seeping through the pulp outlet and the pulp got wetter. The smaller apple chunks helped a bit, but some skins still didn't make it through. So again, for harder skins on apples, it's better to peel it. The juice came out rich and flavorful. There was some pulp floating around, probably because I overloaded it. Although I didn't mind it, but if you prefer zero pulp, maybe juice it in smaller batches, or you may need to strain it afterwards. And because the pulp was mixed with oranges and also the apple, and even the grapes, the pulp was a little wet, but that was expected due to the ingredients used. Taking a look at the feeding container, you can see that there is quite a bit of pulp stuck in there, and again it's probably from the mushy grapes and the orange, and the juicing bowl did have some chunks of carrots in there. But I think overall it's better to juice it in smaller batches rather than dumping it all in. And because the juicing bowl got so full, it started to push the pulp upwards into the yogurt, which is why you can see that there's a lot of trapped pulp in there. You could also leave open the juicing outlet so that it doesn't fill up the juicing bowl, but it continues to just pour out if you want to process a large batch of fruit in one go. When juicing celery, the manual says to chop it up into 7-inch pieces, which helped everything fit in the container. When I started juicing, I saw some juice dripping from the pulp outlet and I panicked, thinking I forgot to plug the silicone stopper in. So I stopped the machine to double check, but it was in place. So I'm not sure why it leaked. The celery itself took a little bit longer to process, and some juice started seeping out early. I think the stringy texture made it tough to fully pass through the triple filter. The pulp, however, seemed to struggle to push through the outlet completely, and this also caused it to be a little wetter. Out of 4 celery stalks, I was able to yield just over 200 ml of juice. Although the juice came out smooth and any stray pulp likely came from when I opened it mid-process, there were some bits of pulp left behind in the container, like you can see here, but that's normal. I've seen that before on other juices. As long as you pour it out slowly, you should be able to hold some of it back. The feeding container didn't look too bad, but the auger did have some pulp buildup underneath, and there were some stringy fibers stuck in the juicing bowl, but again that would be expected with celery. I've had a few comments on my previous juicer videos asking whether these machines can make nut milk, so I tested it. I soaked a cup of almonds overnight, then drained them, and just a heads up, they do expand a bit after soaking, so it will look more like a cup and a half. I added the almonds to the juicer, then I added 1 cup of water, and it will fall into the juicing bowl. Then turn on the machine, and the almonds went through. They got crushed and mixed in with the water, creating almond milk inside the bowl. You want to make sure to keep the drip cover closed while doing this so nothing spills out early. It actually handled the almonds really well. The milk had a bit of texture to it, so if you prefer a smoother finish, you might want to strain it or use a cheesecloth. The almond pulp that came out, you can see, was completely dry. When I opened the machine though, you can see a lot of the almond pulp collected inside the container, but there was also quite a bit stuck under the auger. I think the bowl got too full, which pushed the pulp up into the auger, and some of it got stuck inside the juicing bowl too. But overall it worked really well in making the almond milk, and it was surprisingly quick to process them too. Cleaning all the parts of the juicer was easy. I like to keep a strainer to prevent any of the pulp getting stuck in my drains. And I also use a bowl to catch as much of the pulp as I can. The double-sided brush is great to clean the juicing bowl underneath the silicone plug area where a lot of the pulp will get stuck. So you can just use the flat side of the cleaning brush to push it all out. And then the brush can be used to clear out the filter, especially the tiny holes on the feeding container. Overall, the juicer performs really well. It handles most fruits, veggies and nuts with ease, gives a decent yield. Just be sure to remove any hard skins and cut up larger ingredients for a smoother juicing process. The juicer weighs just under 2 kilos, but it is quite tall at 18 inches high. So you need to make sure it can fit underneath your cabinets and that you can open the lid comfortably to add your ingredients. The big dial is easy to grip and turn, and I like that it has an auto reverse feature. It helps loosen any stuck ingredients before you open it. The motor is strong and technically runs under 60 decibels, but personally I've still found it a bit loud, especially in a quiet kitchen. It's not blender loud, but definitely noticeable. While it's good to have the wide mouth juicing outlet, I did find it annoying when the juice gushed out at full speed, no matter how slowly I tried to open it. With a large juice quantity gushing out, it ended up splashing on the counter and on the floor. I would always position the container lengthwise, so if it shoots out far, I would at least try to catch it before it spilled on the counter. The thing I really liked though was the food pusher design. The silicone tip on it was perfect. It flexes just enough to scrape down the sides rather than the standard plastic pushers that just push downwards into the center. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please do give it a like, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you are new to my channel, do consider subscribing. I bring out videos every week, and I hope to catch you in my next video.